I'm Peter Marks, until recently the Washington Post's theater critic, and now I'm just sort of out there floating in the world with a headshot.
That's right, he is. And I'm Elizabeth Vincentelli, and I write about theater for the New York Times and the Washington Post.
Oh my God,
Peter,
we're
I think
switching roles.
We are in a Freaky Friday. We are in a reboot of Freaky Friday. And we've switched bodies, and it will be the nerdiest musical ever one day. And we're back with Marks and Vincentelli after my snowscapades out west when Peter held down the fort on his own. And I highly encourage our listeners to listen to his episode with Kelly O'Hara and Brian Darcy James, who talked about Days and Wine and Roses, because I learned a lot. And I also learned a lot about you in that show. Yes. You talked about your father, and, it was very intimate. I felt like we were having breakfast at our diner.
Oh, I know. We should auction off a third seat at the diner when we get together. We'd probably make a fortune.
You really that could be a premium. Actually, that could be a premium for subscribers. Like you get to have have breakfast like bacon and eggs, or your vegetarian alternative.
Well,
at our diner of choice.
I will return the compliments, Elizabeth. We missed you. It feels unnatural to be just talking to these luminaries without you at my side digitally. So, but it's nice today that we're getting back, and we've got a full house. We've got less than 3 guests together on the show, and for all of us together, it will be a bit of a love fest covering the wonders of Dead Outlaw, their new musical. It's at the Minetta Lane Theater in the Village until April 14th.
Yeah, and one of our guests is actually a returnee, and that's David Yazbek, who was on this podcast Predecessor, 3 on the Aisle, a few years ago. And David wrote the score for Dead Outlaw with Erik Della Penna, who's also here.
And he's in the show.
And he's in the show. He's in the show's band. And with them is the book writer Itamas Moses. And of course, our listeners who are very astute and know theater and such know that David Yazbek and Itamas Moses had already collaborated on The Band's Visit. And in fact, that show's director, David Cromer, also directed Dead Outlaw.
Yeah, and this show is extremely different from The Band's Visit. There is... you wouldn't really know it was the same team, except that it's exceptional. It's based on a true story, a very little-known story. At least it was little known to me. I don't know about you, Elizabeth. I'd never heard of it. It's about a man named Elmer McCurdy, who was a kind of a bad outlaw, and bad in the sense of not very good at it, and who was killed in 1911 by law enforcement after he was cornered in a hayloft in, I believe, Oklahoma. So the story is that they tell in Dead Outlaw is the true story. His body was embalmed and was found 65 years later, wasn't identified until 1976. It was found the corpse preserved in a California amusement park, where it became an attraction. I had no idea that this existed. I'd never been to an amusement park where a living corpse, or a dead corpse, obviously, was on display. So the musical tracks his life from childhood until his violent death, and then, fascinatingly, it follows what happened to the corpse over the ensuing decades, which we will get into, I hope, with our guests. And during that portion of the show, Andrew Durand, who plays Elmer, has to do the extraordinary feat of remaining dead on stage in full view for virtually the last half of the show. It's astonishing.
It's really amazing. And you can see him really well because he's kind of he's propped up in a coffin. I mean, he's in a coffin that's propped up and open, so you can see him very well. And he does not move and does not even appear to breathe because I was watching, of course. It was incredible.
And did you notice even his eyes, the gaze, like he fixes the gaze blink. Half opened. It's very weird.
Yeah. So Andrew Durand, for me, I mean, I had liked him before. He was really good in Shocked, a show I did not like Shocked, but I liked him. And he was also really good in Head Over Heels, where he played the kind of doofus love interest. But where he blew me away, when he has to rock, and the show is a very rocking show.
Right.
This guy can rock. And in fact, I thought when I was watching him, I was like, this guy could be a great Hedwig. He really could be a terrific Hedwig. He certainly has the pipes. And he can act. Anyway, so I can already tell this is going to be one of my favorite musicals of the year. It's already very, very high up there. And we have 3 of the creators with us today. 3 guests of first time, and I can tell it's going to go swimmingly, technically and otherwise. So, first question is for David. David, can you confirm for the jury that you're the one who came up with that idea? Because that is such a crazy idea for a show.
I was told this story, this true story of the dead outlaw about 30 something years ago. Oh, no, 30 years ago, probably. And I've carried it with me almost obsessively that amount of time. And even then, way before I was writing musicals, I thought there's got to be something that we can do with this. Maybe I'll try to write a film or, whatever. And it just never, it never blossomed. And then the sort of catalyst for everything happening was just starting to work with these great collaborators. Erik and I told Erik the story a long time ago. We started writing songs about this guy. We brought in Itamar. Itamar and I worked so well on the band's visit together. And then David Cromer was just a obvious choice. And then all of a sudden, everything just sort of exploded into what we've got.
I'm just curious, what about, the story of McCurdy is so, it's so funny because he was such a lousy outlaw. I mean, he just, it sort of lends itself to comedy immediately. Did you discover, as you explored this, David, that that there was so much irony built into even his biography? Was that stuff that you investigated further as you actually started thinking about developing it as a musical? Was that Itamar's job?
My first reaction to the story was, holy shit, what a story. It is funny. It is so weird. And then there was like this kind of slow burn where it instituted itself into my mind as almost a Zen koan, like something that just stuck there. Oh my God, who are you? What are your ambitions about? If your fame is achieved after your death, what is life? What is death? It just sort of like sticks in there. And to me, it's sometimes extremely funny, and it's sometimes very sad, and it's sometimes just fucking, confusing and puzzling. I hope that that's where Itamar's at with it, but I don't know. What do you think?
I guess I'm not drawn to stories generally that are only sentimental or that are only earnest or that are only, I just think that there's my instinct and my experience has been that actually telling the truth tends to be funny and weird. much weirder and funnier than anything you could sort of force to be that way. And then you find your way to like some kind of maybe earned profundity, but only by passing through. So I just took it as a given that as soon as Yazbek told me this story, and I was like, oh yeah, I mean, that's amazing. I think doing it as a musical is hard for a variety of reasons, but I was completely drawn to the story, and the ironies and the dark humor in it were immediately apparent. Sure.
And all right, I don't want to I don't want to do too many spoilers here because some of it is so delicious the way this musical evolves. But the main character played by Andrew Durand, who's amazing in this piece, has an assignment that has to be unprecedented in musical theater history, which involves stasis and
I think we can say what he does.
Okay, yeah. For half the show, he's in a coffin displayed as a corpse, and he has to be in repose in a way that is so intriguing to watch. It almost is scene stealing at times to just sort of like fixate on how he's pulling this off. He's displayed as if he were in a sideshow. And I wondered if the three of you can speak to the idea of how you were going to do this, and if that evolved as did you imagine always that that you had to find an actor who could play a stiff so stiffly?
Well, I mean, Erik's the one on stage with him every night because Erik's also in the show.
Right.
I mean, my recollection is that Cromer said, "I want him on stage the whole time." I wasn't even thinking about what we were going to do. I mean, what do you think, Erik? What was your?
Yeah, Cromer said that, and I thought it was a brilliant idea, and I think it's crucial to the presentation. Absolutely.
It's also very perverse because this is an Audible production, so there will be an audio life, and one of the best part of the show does not translate to audio at all.
Right.
Yeah, it's like an Easter.
Yeah, I mean, it was clear. It was clear to me. I don't know if this is true. Yazbek told me that people he talked to, because he, like he said, came across this story 30 years ago, and so I think various times tried to figure out ways to do it. And that, people would say like, well, the problem is your protagonist is dead for the second half of the story. And I was like, maybe I was the right person, because I was like, what's cool is the protagonist is dead for the second half. Like, I realized it was a challenge, but I was like, if you could pull it off, that's what would make it totally unique. Like, how do you do that? And then, yes, I'm not sure how it will translate to audio, but yes, I thought it was clear that how people relate to him and react to him, including the audience at the show, was sort of part of how the storytelling works in the second half. In terms of like how good Andrew is at it, that's luck. Like, for us, I mean, that's our good luck, because it's not something we knew he was fantastic. He auditioned for us. People had seen him in Shucked. Like, we knew he was great and would slay the first half of the show, but you can't really audition how good someone is at playing a corpse. And I'm stunned. I'm like you all. I am stunned at how he makes it riveting somehow, being dead.
One of the things I love about the show, and so surprising, is, and I do think that the late beloved Stephen Sondheim would be absolutely enthralled with the imagination that went into the after Elmer's death part of the show, when you have song after song and you give them so generously to everybody in the cast, basically gets their moment. But this wonderful song, this delicious number that Julia Nightel has, singing her hopes and dreams and innermost thoughts to the corpse that's being stored in her house. And it's precious and real that she befriends this corpse. And it's so imaginatively conceived that it's to me it's the essence of what musical theater can do, that makes it endlessly malleable, that makes it protean in a way that any other form would not quite be able to bring to life. So that part of it really seems like it must have been so imaginative to have to figure out how you were going to do the second half of the show. The first half is biographical. The second half becomes much more ethereal, I would say, in terms of how it unfolds.
Well, we sort of knew. Erik and I had done the story and most of the songs as a song cycle, with me telling the story many times, like 8 times or 10 times, something. And Itamar had written us a narrative for me to tell, and then Erik and I sang the songs with our band. And the songs that we did during his life, that's great, that's going to work, that's great, that's going to work, that's great. Then you get to the death, and it's like, for me, I always thought, this is our chance to, now he's a memento mori, now he's a blank slate, now he's a tabula rasa, which is a lyric we use. Now we get to say the stuff, that the philosophical stuff we want to say, and leave the audience with something much deeper than just the laughs and the adventure. But we were really at a loss at how to do it. Itamar, at one point, he had me telling my story as like an anxiety kid who turned into a Buddhist. Like at another point, I was suggesting, well, maybe we bring in like a Tibetan monk to say something. Like there was, like, we were just trying to figure it out. And I believe Itamar was like a major guidepost to this. And that song you're talking about, when the little girl who then grows up is singing her deepest thoughts to this mummy, because she can, right? Because it's that was an invention of his as a way to also show the passage of time, because we had this gap of like 10 or 15 years. So she grows up, we see, and then in between verses, we see that the mummy has been in this exploitation film or in this sideshow, and so that was sort of the best possible musical theater collaboration, because he's asking us, and when Itamar asks us to write a song, Erik's like, okay, let's do it. And I'm like, no, it's never going to work. And that's just my process, is like, not wanting to do any more work. So that's how that came about. And that's how the whole second act came about, really.
Well, actually, I want to circle back a little bit, because you were just talking about collaboration. And I want to circle back to, I think this is, David, is this your first musical theater score that you've done in collaboration with someone else? And can you talk about how you work? Like Erik, how do you work with David? Like, you guys have known each other for a long time. Erik, you play in David's band. Like, why did you decide to do this particular one together as a show, as opposed to an album or a song cycle?
Well, I come from a non-musical theater background, which is I'm a songwriter from an Americana tradition. I'm also an instrumentalist, so I play with a lot of people. So as I was in his band, I'm also a songwriter. So, and because of my genre and style, I think David thought that I would be the guy for the job.
Mm-hmm.
It would be suited.
Well, I didn't just guess it. I just knew it. Like, Erik and our co-producer Dean Sharonow, who's also the music supervisor of Dead Outlaw, and also plays in both of our bands. The two of them have had a band called Kill Henry Sugar for years and years. And they've put out, how many albums have you guys put out? Like 10?
7.
7. And if you listen to these records, they're really great songs, like really great. And Erik is an amazing player on not just guitar, but mandolin, banjo, lap steel, all of which he gets to play in the show. And the lap steel is kind of like the guiding sound of the whole show. And in many ways, the where our Venn diagram meets is very weird and interesting kind of music, and also our tastes are similar. It just in terms of can't even describe it, but we've written before.
It's because age group. It's always sad to realize how cliche you are can be from the time the period that you're born. So I think our tastes, what we were exposed to, 1970s AM radio and TV show themes, are bouncing around and have been bouncing around in my head for 50-something years.
Yeah. But then you say, have you ever heard Gesualdo? And I'm like, what do you mean? And then I listen to Gesualdo, and I'm just like, holy cow, Or I send him like Raymond Scott, like it's,
We should just give some context to listeners. The band is front and center on stage at the Minetta Lane for the entire performance. It's performed in they're in a kind of shell that looks like a studio, or not a studio, but someone's as if they are playing their own concert. And the events of the musical, happen around them. They are there omnipresently. You're front and center throughout the show. And I think the other thing you have to ask is, Itamar, this show is very much about death. It's not the most, it sounds like something that would be off-putting, but it is the one, the message of the show is kind of from the very outset is, hey, listen, we're all going to die. We should be able to talk about this happening to all of us, and filtered through this bizarre story of someone who has died and who becomes kind of an objectified, as if people aren't going to die, as if they can watch this as something that's going to happen to everybody else except them. So which is a really interesting idea, and the fact that you can make that something that is palatable and even enjoyable is kind of the remarkable aspect of what you've created. And I didn't know if that was conscious on your part.
The obsession with death originates with Yazbek. I don't mean in human history. I mean in the show. But when he alluded to this sort of period where we were really struggling with what the key to the second half was, and there was a monologue for an actor as Yazbek talking about his interest in that began with his obsession with death in childhood. That's why I did it, because it was so relevant. It was like the story of why he was so interested in this story, and sort of having anxiety and then realizing the source of the anxiety, and then figuring out how to like meditate as a way to incorporate the anxiety. So that was, I think, the source of Yazbek's obsession with this story. So it's inherent. And then the story itself is so insane that simply telling it is entertaining. So that gets you that tension. I would say that actually our big task, we only had about a week of previews, which is nuts for a new musical. And I would say that our task, the thing we were most worried about after the first couple of previews, was actually that we'd made it too entertaining. That at the end of the show, everyone was like, that was so much fun. We were like, and after the first preview, we were like, great, it's fun, awesome, we did it. And then 2-3 shows in, and everyone's like, that was so fun. We were like, is it just fun? Because it's also about death. Right. So one of the things we really worked on in the second half of previews was making sure that it wasn't too much, of a lark, and that the sort of undertow, the melancholic or macabre undertow, remained, and we hadn't sort of detached from it.
It's about death, but it's also this very American obsession of turning everything into entertainment,
Yeah.
including a real corpse in a sideshow that was there for years before people realized what it was.
It's you turn everything into entertainment in order to really do the most American thing, which is to turn everything into money. And that's really what's going on here I mean, that's there's this show works on a lot of levels, and one of the main levels is this sort of Western obsession with this greed, this sort of obsession with gain, and that goes right into the more philosophical and even religious part of it, which is if you're so busy thinking about why are you so busy thinking about making and getting and spending? Well, it's because you don't really want to think about the fact that it's all temporal. And where does that put you? Well, that puts you in a place where you're in hell all the time because you're never in the present. And that's what this show is about. And the thing that makes theater, live theater or a live concert or live entertainment in a room so special is, first of all, we're all in the same boat. Every beating heart in that room is in the same boat. And there's something, if you don't realize it consciously, you realize it subconsciously. And there are these great moments where you're in the present moment in that room. And that's kind of like at the deepest level, that's what the show is. And also at the most normal level, that's what the show is about. And about being in the present moment. Elmer McCurdy was greedy. He was a criminal. He was an alcoholic. He was always escaping the present moment. And every single one of the people who exploited him for their own gain, the body, was the same way. It's like, what can I do to get the suckers to pay? So that's what we're talking about.
But also, I think that, part of the reason that when I saw it, people were walking out still saying that was a hoot. I mean, that's what they say. And I think that that's what you do want them to feel, because I think that anything else would dampen the box office, frankly. And I also said in the pre-show, before you all our listeners joined, I said that this show has an esprit de corpse. I just want to get that on the record, but which I think is the delight. But I also
don't
think
get it. I'm sure it's clever.
Well done. Touche. But I'll explain it afterwards. But the other thing I wanted to say was, but it wouldn't work quite as well, because I do think the place that you start is kind of poignant. His childhood is tragic, and when we start from that space, you let us you intimately involve us in his own the sad part of his story, and that that is counter to the way his body is treated, the defilement essentially of his body. It starts with a defilement of his youth in circumstances that are beyond his control. So I do think that linkage is essential to the success of this piece.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yes, I've left you all speechless with my my analysis.
I'm gonna be very pragmatic as usual, but one of the things that really struck me in the show is that the performances the music is very rocking country Americana, but very rocking, and I was really surprised when I looked. Andrew Durand, I knew, but I was really surprised looking at the bios of the cast members that they come from musical theater. And honestly, it's really hard to find a musical theater person who can sing like that, who can do rock convincingly. Really, really hard. So were you guys involved in the casting? Because I this could not have worked if they had musical theater voices. Like, it would have been so ridiculous.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. Yeah. Erik, this is Erik's. I mean, Erik's actually done a couple of musicals before, but this is the first one at this level with lots and lots of auditions and stuff like that. And I mean, for 20 something years, I've been the one in the room always saying, like, unless it's appropriate, like in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels or something like that,
Right.
saying like to Broadway, to Broadway, to Broadway, to Broadway. And, trying to lead people with sometimes who seemed like they might have the ability to not have to sing legit like that, to a more a different style. But I can only imagine how it must have been driving Erik crazy to hear those. I'm used to it. I mean, was it, dude? Was it making you like,
I mean, sometimes I was kind of horrified. I did. I felt like, oh no, is this gonna happen?
But the only thing worse than for this show, the only thing worse than that sort of Broadway trained voice is the quote, like in air quotes, the rock and roll Broadway voice. Broadway has a tendency, I've said this before, and I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again. It has a tendency to just ruin any genre it gets its hands on. So if you're going to do a rock musical and all of a sudden you have these legit singers singing it, ugh. If you're doing any genre. I mean, it could be ska, it could be anything. It has that tendency, unless it's very carefully curated. It's one of the reasons why Gettel's show, Days of Wine and Roses, was so interesting and to me and worked so well, is somehow he got Kelly O'Hara, whose voice is incredible and beautiful, and she can do, it's very unique, and it's not just that, down the line. And Brian Darcy James, who's actually I knew already was amazing, but got them singing that scat stuff that he wrote, and I'm like, whoa, this is totally works. Anyway, for us, it's been there's been a few times when we'd have to say, I think you're Robert Plant, but it's kind of like you're more like you're in Aida, like Elton John's Aida, so there have been
I
some,
like that you specify the Elton John's,
not the opera, not the opera.
Having been in, I don't know how many, 100 audition rooms with Yazbek by this point between Band's Visit and this one, I can tell you that when he gives a note to an actor between the first time they sing the song and then the second time they sing it after he gives them the note, 98% of the time the note is some version of "you don't have to be musical theater." It'll often be specific to whatever they did. You don't have to backphrase, you don't have to use so much vibrato, whatever it is. But the note is almost always, and especially on this show, he kept saying to people, just sing it like you're singing a rock song in front of a band.
I would just say, by the way, props to you for having Tom Sesma sound like Steve Lawrence. That was pretty. That was pretty amazing.
He said, should I do Sinatra? And I said, do Bobby Darin. Because you know what I mean. Like, it's like doing Sinatra. But you're right. It's good. That's good. That's a good.
Yeah. But I also will take a little exception to. Yes, of course, Broadway has a way of making of tarnishing all these styles. I mean, but it's a parasitic form. I mean, it's forever it's been drawing on everything from jazz to operetta. I mean, it's just what it does. So but I do appreciate your purist standpoint about what you're looking for. And in this musical, as you guys have all said, it does feel a step above. I just have a question about. I know we don't have much time, but this is the kind of show. It reminded me when I first saw Hedwig in the 90s. of a piece that was one of a kind and could run forever in a space, like the Minetta Lane. It feels so at home there, and you've got such a limited run there. I wonder just about the choice of doing it in this format and in this situation, and whether you put the brakes on what's possible because it's such a limited run.
I don't understand. Is that a question or
I'm
saying,
wondering why you chose to go this route.
Oh, I mean, this started as a song cycle, really. It started as us making an album. And in my mind, subconsciously or not, and I can't speak for Erik, but in my mind, at first, this was a delivery system for those songs. So even though now it's like this integrated piece of musical theater, to me, the idea of in this world where there's no record business anymore, where there's no, how do you get your stuff out there? Audible felt like, holy cow, literally millions and millions of people will have access. They may not all listen to it, but all of a sudden they'll have access to this. People who listen to musical theater, those usual 20, 30,000 people who always buy the cast albums, and then all the people that you sort of hope that your musical becomes a movie so that maybe you can expose it to 5 million people instead of 500,000 people or 50,000 people. So part of it was, wow, these songs, and now also, just that idea that, wow, this could be, now this whole show can have this very large audience. Now, in terms of the commercial theater production, which is so amazing because of the collaboration of the three of us and David Cromer, this needs to have a life, obviously, beyond Minetta Lane. It never could have had a life past the 7 weeks that we're running because of the schedule, but it could easily have a life at commercial off-Broadway, the Orpheum, someplace like that, and maybe that's the 2 or 3 year run you're talking about. Or maybe it moves into a playhouse on Broadway. More problematic given what's going on Broadway right now with all those shows and stuff, but still very, given the reviews and given the audience response, still, definitely a high possibility.
Now, Peter, can we say that Peter Marks of the Washington Post said this should run forever, even though you're technically not?
Yes.
And also, by the way, I think these different forms feed each other. I mean, it's related to the way that, Broadway shows like jealously guard the idea, like they try to stop no one having bootlegs or, on YouTube. But actually, if you look at the effect, those things drive ticket sales. They don't depress them, right?
Fascinating.
Hamilton's been available for, like, in a beautiful capture for anyone who has Disney Plus for years. And it's not as if that stopped people going to see the live show. It's the opposite effect.
Right.
So I assume that this being available on Audible, if there's also a great live show running, those things will just feed each other.
Like, we all grew up listening, you'd listen to your favorite band's album, and then they'd come in and you go and see them do those songs. Similarly, it's that quote, I forget who said it, it wasn't Frank Lesser. It's not that they leave the theater whistling the songs. It's they come into the theater whistling the songs because there used to be the hit parade. There used to be people covering these songs. This is our chance to do that. It's so exciting. When we did Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, I convinced the producer, but he could not convince the investors. I said, just get $200,000 up, make the cast album with that money, call it advertising, and then give away the albums. Just give them away. With every ticket, you get an album, not with every pair of tickets, because then you've got all these albums, and then we've got a hit parade going because people will like, here's an album, here's an album. That's what this is to me. It's like, finally, we get to do this,
Brilliant.
That's what Andrew Lloyd Webber, like, no matter what you think of him, he, like, several of his best shows started as concept albums. And then he, as rock concept albums, and then they just did the musical version. But I remember, in fact, when they started broadcasting sports, like the sport people were like freaking out that people would stop going to see, baseball games. And as far as I know, they haven't stopped going to baseball games or basketball games. It just, you want to see it more.
Yes. Nobody goes to every baseball game, but you can watch every baseball game and then go to the ones you can make or go to the ones you can afford. It's always a better experience to be there in person. But, with Broadway and increasingly other forms of theater, who can afford to do that every night? So
I think Broadway should learn from Taylor Swift. I mean, she is. I hear she's a smart cookie. And her concert movies out there.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that's gonna be a problem for. Okay, so we need to wrap this up. But I'm very curious as to what you guys are working on. Because for instance, David, I saw that you in the Play bio said you're working with Jeffrey Lane again.
Yeah, well, Jeffrey Lane and I have a show called Whiz Bang that we wrote. We've been writing for like 10 years or 12 years or something like that. And, COVID got in the way. But we have a great draft of it. We're doing a reading just to see what we've got with the Globe, which we've both worked. I've worked with twice, and they also did Scoundrel. So it was Jeffrey and I did it. And we're going to do a reading and see what we've got. It's a very cool musical with a lot of old electronic sounds in it. That's all I can say at this point. So that's
it's a new wave.
It's not
musical?
new. It's not new wave. Some of it takes place in the 39 World's Fair. So it's more like it's
theremin.
There's theremin in it. It's like dawn of the age of electricity and then dawn of the atomic age, acts 1 and acts 2. And it's based on kind of boys' adventure books that were very popular all through the 20th century.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm working on.
What are you guys working on, Itamar and Erik?
I don't know when you're going to post this, but at the moment I also have a play running at the Public called The Ally through April 7th.
Oh, right. Of course.
So if this is posted before April 7th, you can still try to get and see that. That's going well. I'm proud of that one. It's sort of a play about American university campus politics as it pertains to arguments around Israel, Palestine, and police violence. So a nice light.
Oh, that's so out of that topic is so out of date.
Yeah, if you want to break from the news, go see The Ally. And then various nascent things cooking in various forms. But my first musical from 10, 12 years ago was a satire about reality TV called Nobody Loves You.
I love that show. I was wondering.
Oh, great! I'm glad.
Oh my God! It was at the.
I love that show,
right?
Elizabeth Vincentelli. So yeah, we did it off Broadway like 12 years ago. It wasn't able to the reviews were good. It wasn't able to sort of get over the hump commercially because of all the things.
Wasn't Leslie Kritzer in that?
Yes, she was.
Oh my God! Yeah.
But anyway, so we're bringing it back. ACT is going to do it in San Francisco with Pam McKinnon directing next year with the aim of bringing it back to New York. It's funny because we did it when we did. There's an obsessed fan of the show who live tweets it. There's a whole Twitter song. When we did it 12 years ago, the subscriber audience for theater was like, what's this reality TV fad? What's Twitter? What's a hashtag? We were weirdly like too soon. And we've sort of watched as all of the things that we were critiquing have completely taken over the culture. Like we've gone from what's Twitter to like having had a president who was a former reality TV star who tweeted constantly. So we're sort of updating it a little. Shockingly, we don't have to update it that much and bringing it. So that's probably the next thing I know I'm going to be in rehearsal for next year is the revival of Nobody Loves You.
Great.
Erik, are you like getting so tired of Dead Outlaw since you're in the band, so you're in it every day? I remember I talked to Stu once, and he said that he could not, because he was also in the band for Passing Strange, and he said he wanted to shoot himself by the end. He just couldn't take it anymore.
Well, it's a finite run, so I know what I'm getting into. So it's fine. I enjoy it.
What are you working on, Erik? What are you working on? What's your next
the 8th Kill Henry Sugar album?
Is a musical about airport security a
He's sort of half kidding because we have this running gag. Tell them about your fucking band.
can I airport security? It's like Canterbury Tales, but set at the moment they're going to your conveyor belts, X-ray machines.
Erik needs a little bit of media training. Right? He's got to sell himself on these. Erik
is in two bands, one of which gigs very regularly, called Hazmat Modine. They're a lot of fun and they're great musicians and they're just so dynamic. And you can see them when, Erik, every Saturday?
Yeah, not every Saturday. We go to Europe a few times a year and do like 5-6 week tours.
And New York, where can we see you?
Bleecker Street, Terra Blues, every other week, every other Saturday.
Yeah. So the fact that he sounds for some reason like he doesn't care and he's throwing it away, just ignore that. He's actually an enthusiastic musician with bands that he loves to play in.
We'll take your word for it, David. But listen, Erik, David, Itamar, we really appreciate your time. We, as you can tell, we're enthusiasts for Dead Outlaw, and we wish it many, many more performances and millions of listeners around the world.
And it will never die, just like
like the corpse.
Its corpse will be brought back.
The ads write themselves. The ads write themselves.
You could not keep this show down.
No. Esprit de corpse. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Esprit de corpse.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Okay, that I really could talk to these guys for hours. And David Yazbek, I really think anybody who has a podcast should have David Yazbek on at least once, because it's hard to find someone who's more entertaining than this guy. And it's actually like, I think it reflects why I love his shows as well. Like his wit, and he's such a quick thinker. Love him. I love all of them. Anyway, so we need to wrap this up.
Yeah, I would just say, Elizabeth, I agree. I hope that in this, this incredibly busy period we're walking into now, that the show, isn't lost in the shuffle, because it really is special. It's off Broadway. We're going to be doing a lot of Broadway in the coming weeks, which is exciting, and we'll have some really great guests for you. But this is off Broadway at its best. So
it's also great. I'll remind our listeners that it's produced by Audible, so it will be available, and they're going to record it. They're going to add all the sound effects, in the studio. So it'll be a very full production, not a cast album. Like you can hear the actual production done, for that. So it will have that life, and of course it can be revived wherever. So anyway. We've got to keep on going. As you say, we have like some pretty neat guests lined up. I'm pretty excited. That season is going to be, it's really, the afterburners are, I feel like in the Fast and Furious movie when they press that button and they engage like the soup. Okay, you have this glazed stare that leads me to think that you have not seen any of the Fast and Furious.
I have never seen a Fast and Furious movie, but I will trust your observation.
Trust me, it's like when Dom presses the turbo button. That's what's happening right now on Broadway. Trust me on that.
Well, you're the pop expert, so I will defer to you on that. And to our audience, I'll say until next time. I'm Peter Marks,
and I'm Elizabeth Vincentielli, and you can subscribe to Marks and Vincentielli. Oh, which reminds me, in addition. You can subscribe, and in addition to possibly having breakfast with us, we have to record like a subscriber. I've been having thoughts about like what we could do for a subscriber-only episode. That'll be really fun.
Cool. I'm on Threads, and Elizabeth is on Twitter, X.
I know, right?
And Threads.
Still.
And we both use our real names, so you can track us down and tell us how great we are.
Absolutely.
Because we believe that. Until next time, go see a lot of shows.